Our movie today is an adventure sci-fi called Time Trap. We are introduced to Hopper, an archaeology professor, and his dog, Boss. They are hiking and searching for a group of missing hippies from the 1970s. Hopper rummages inside an old VW camper van and discovers a notepad with antique sketches. They observe a tunnel system in the vicinity, as well as one especially enormous cave in the distance. They make their way to the cave entrance, but Boss remains behind, barking. Hopper comes into an unusual scene. A cowboy has become immobile. His revolver and outfit do not appear to be of our time, and he does not answer Hopper's cries. Hopper is taken aback by the finding and returns home. He had arranged for this exploratory trip with his teaching assistants, Taylor and Jackie. However, when Hopper returns home, he informs them that the situation has changed and that they should concentrate on their tasks. Taylor wants to join him on the expedition, since going alone is perilous, and he's eager to find out what the hippies were seeking. Because this is a personal matter, the professor decides to return to the cave alone. Hopper drives there and sets up a rope as a backup in case everything goes wrong. He then walks into the cave, while Boss barks warily after him. The cowboy is found to be motionless and locked in place. He finds a transparent layer separating the cave's atmosphere from that of the outer world. It has a lot of moisture. A cowboy guy he encountered before starts to move as soon as he makes the decision to cross through the layer. Professor Hopper is missing after 2 days. Since they haven't heard from him, Taylor and Jackie are growing increasingly concerned. They, therefore, decide to search for him. Since they don't have a car of their own, they phone Taylor's crush Kara and ask to borrow her father's car. Vives, Kara's sister, reportedly also has to do a school project, so Kara decides to bring her along. They also invite Furby, a quirky little kid whose worried mother warns of misbehaving, who is a buddy of Vives. As Vives records the excursion for her school assignment with a camera, Taylor observes that they have a sizable number of kids with. When the kids get there, they discover the VW van and see photos of the Hopper family inside. They now realize that the professor, and not some hippies as they had previously been informed, was looking for answers about what had happened to his family in the cave. In the 1970s, his family went on the run after entering a cave in search of the Fountain of Youth. Furby starts recording the events on his YouTube account as the mystery unfolds. They soon come upon an old rope that leads them to a different section of the cave. They discover the rope has been severed and realize that it is not Hopper's rope due to its age. As Jackie eagerly advances, they realize that the cave is incredibly deep. Because others had cut the rope, the ones who had fallen could not have returned this way. The youngsters decide to go further into the cave, so they gather supplies and equipment. They leave Furby with a walkie-talkie to keep an eye on them, because he is too scared to join them. Kara notices the same transparent layer that Hopper discovered before, while heading down, noting that it radically affects the air. They make the decision to drop through the layer. Hopper notices the animated cowboy and follows him to the other cave. He begins to get strange sensations. An odd light begins to flicker. It's as if someone is constantly dimming and illuminating the cave's entrance with a tremendous flash. Then, he hears screams and odd growls. He panics and exits the cave again. Hopper entered the cave in broad daylight, but only a few minutes later, the outside world has changed dramatically, with overgrown vegetation covering his vehicle, and it is now darkness. His car won't start, and his belongings appear to have aged significantly. It's as though a few minutes in the cave are comparable to several years outside. He comes across an SUV and searches it for supplies. When he sees Jackie's backpack, he knows that his pupils have come to his aid. He gathers some light sticks and decides to return to the cave. When he crosses the transparent threshold and the light begins to flicker at the cave's entrance, he sets the sticks on the ground, and one of them levitates. He musters the courage and goes deeper. The group complain that they can't hear one another when descending in other places. They hear screams coming from the depths of the cave as they start to explore and taunt one another. Despite Taylor's assurances that they can go, the girls panic and choose to do so. The rope gets cut as Jackie ascends first, causing her to plummet. Taylor reaches out to hold her, but the attempt causes him to hurt his wrist. Jackie also feels uneasy. When Taylor tugs the second rope, he discovers that it has also been severed. The gang starts to believe that Furby intentionally cut the rope in an effort to scare them. They call him on the walkie-talkie, but he doesn't answer. Taylor and Jackie, the two finest climbers, are now in poor health, so they all bicker about who can rock climb freehand. Taylor claims that any fall from that height would result in death. They eventually hear some garbled radio noises pleading for aid, claiming to be Furby, but his voice is too deep and masculine to be the prepubescent kid. They fight once again, but are left with little choice. The party decides to go further into the cave, leaving the injured Jackie alone. She uses her phone to track the camera's feed until the signal is lost. The gang realizes how large the land is on the opposite side of the cave. They are also seeing a strange flashing light. They discover another severed rope, as well as Furby's body with a broken neck. The gang has been left horrified. They then replay the footage from Furby's camera to figure out what happened to him. Furby had been waiting for them for quite some time. He went searching and discovered Hopper's father's journal. He discovers that the cave has magical water that can heal humans. Because Hopper's sister is ill, the family decided to go to the cave in search of water. After spending several days outside the cave, Furby decides to venture inside in search of his pals, whom he believes are gone, for the vehicle keys. While it takes him a whole day, the rest of the gang merely spends minutes inside the cave. As Furby approaches, his rope is severed, forcing him to fall. Vives displays the time code from the recording, which covers many days, despite the fact that they had only been in the cave for an hour. The gang is playing another blame game, but they are compelled to rely on one another. Because Taylor and Jackie are both injured, Kara and Vives are the only ones who can discover a way out and ask for aid. Kara chooses to climb up the same route they came down, because Vives is younger. Taylor tosses her an emergency GPS beacon, which she may activate once she's closer to the surface, and perhaps someone will come to save them. Kara expertly ascends and reaches the surface. The rope has been severed, and she now finds herself in a barren landscape. There is no indication of flora, and the air is heavy, making it difficult for Kara to breathe. As a massive storm approaches, she climbs higher to acquire a signal. She notices an unsettling triangular object in the sky. She is compelled to return to the cave to dodge the storm, because she is unable to ask for assistance. The others are furious, since she couldn't have reached the surface after only a few seconds in the cave. Kara, upset, tosses her camera at them, allowing them to view the clip. The gang discovers that time moves considerably quicker outside the cave than inside, or that time in the caverns is frozen. Taylor compares the footage and determines the time difference. He believes that the ropes at the top are deteriorating rapidly, causing them to snap due to contact with the rock face. As a result, Vives rewatches the recording of Furby's footage, recognizing that the sun's trajectories are always shifting. They recognize the flickering lights at the cave opening as the sun rising and setting quickly. Kara sobs, blaming herself for bringing her 13-year-old sister here. Surprisingly, her sister looks calm and optimistic that they will find a way out. Jackie arrives at the conclusion that the spring of youth is a metaphor for the time trap. Taylor says something smashed Furby's radio, so they rewatch his tape. He doesn't pass from the fall. He lies there, barely conscious, for about an hour and wakes up to talk to Taylor, but suddenly a wild man speaking gibberish attacks him. Taylor arms everyone with sharp stones after noticing a dangerous guy nearby, while Kara attempts to scale the cliff one more time. Vives also indicates that the brilliant is summer and the dark is winter, allowing one cycle of seasons to be viewed in less than a second, implying that a whole year passes in less than a second. So we may compute and learn that they had now been in the cave for around 5,400 years. An extremely modern and high-tech ladder appears in the cave, along with a very tall guy dressed in a spacesuit. A caveman arrives out of nowhere and begins to assault the astronaut, but is restrained non-lethally. The party chooses to flee to another section of the cave. They discover torches and the bodies of Hopper's parents. They disguise themselves as 3 other cavemen. Taylor tries to resist them, but is overcome. Kara returns to see his lifeless body as the girls retreat to the opposite side of the cave. The astronaut approaches her as she is sobbing over him. He pulls Taylor's body to a pool of water and collects a sample of it. Taylor is miraculously healed and given new life by the waters. The cavemen come back and assault the astronaut, ripping off his helmet and exposing him to the oxygen air that he can't breathe. He still succeeds in incapacitating every caveman, though. A number of news reports regarding their disappearance are shown to the group before he passes away, along with evidence that humans had started colonizing other planets using warp-speed ships. They watch their parents on the news, mourning the kids. The party now understands that there is no turning back, and they must choose between leaving the cave immediately or staying there forever. Hopper's luggage catches Taylor's eye. He takes up the cowboy's gun and discovers many injured cave people being treated with miraculous water. His crippled professor, who presumably got into a fight with the cave inhabitants and harmed them, is standing behind them, ahead of a thicker, more transparent layer. It contains Hopper's long-lost sister, as well as frozen people from several time periods, engaged in a conflict over the youth fountain. According to Hopper, the entire cave is a system that was built to safeguard the fountain, and because each layer has a distinct pace, the deepest layer's time is far slower than the layer below it. The cavemen suddenly rise up and start to fight. Hopper gives Taylor the go-ahead to go, after buying him some time with the gun. Hopper is far too hurt to make it out alive. The water is used to heal Jackie's ankle. They also pull Furby's body in the hopes of reviving him. Vives sets a fire to slow the cave people down, but they are ambushed by the final caveman. They decide to ascend outside the cave using the astronaut's high-tech ladder, since they have nowhere else to go. As they approach the cave's mouth, they notice that the opening has been filled with water, which makes no sense. Kara attempts to burst through the layer, but is dragged back by bizarre monsters. Taylor attempts but fails to pull her back. She is removed from the rest of the group and given a mask. A caveman turns off the ladder, leaving everyone suspended in midair as they drop. From the outside, it appeared as though time had stopped. But shortly after, a fully dressed and equipped Kara returns to the cave and begs her friends to let go and have faith in her. To remove everyone from the cave, including Furby, Hopper, and Hopper's parents, she releases a cybernetic, high-tech rope. Everyone is returned to life on a strange space station when she pulls them through the water portal. It turned out that the eerie hands pulling Kara belonged to evolved humans doing their best to assist. They are currently traveling to a brand new planet in a spacecraft. The gang is now well known in history books. They are revered as legendary survivors and heroes.